Welcome to the Gifts from the Edge podcast, where you are about to meet parents and professionals, educators and entrepreneurs who have taken the path less traveled, and by doing that, have made all the difference. Now it's time to step out of the ordinary. Here's your host, Andrew Lord.
Hello and welcome back to the Gifts from the Edge podcast, my friends. I know it's been a long time, but I have been absolutely flat out with my programs, the Passion to Profit course and the Maximize series. But when the opportunity to connect with Alicia Wade came up, I didn't want to miss it. She's an amazing woman and her life is a testament to the power of gratitude. She's sometimes referred to as Dr. Gratitude. She's a survivor of domestic violence and she has used this experience to help her become a beacon of hope for other women who might be going through their own tough times. So she started the Women's Walk and Talk. She's a successful businesswoman, a finalist in last year's People's Choice Awards. She's won multiple awards, including the International Bestselling Author Award, International Life Coach of the Year Award, and Australian Small Business of the Year Award. Her collaborative books, journals, and programs have helped countless people worldwide to transform their lives and find happiness through gratitude. Alicia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. What an absolutely magical introduction. Thank you for that.
It's all stuff you've done. So isn't it cool when you see it like condensed down like that? Because some days you feel like, oh, what am I getting done? But when you see it condensed down like that, it's like, yeah, I'm getting stuff done.
Exactly right. And when you do hear it, you're like, that's right, Alicia, you have done this and you've achieved a lot, especially like the awards. Some of the awards, I wasn't expecting some of the awards that I've received, and I'm grateful for all the people that have nominated me in my communities and my network. So very, very appreciative of it.
Yeah, very cool. All right. So when I interview someone, I like to think about the timeline of their life, and sort of there's obviously some key points that I like to think about, but I also like to imagine myself, dropping in. I think, what's the best place to drop in on them and learn more about who they are? And as I was thinking about you, I was thinking about, all those amazing awards and achievements that we've talked about and all the positive that you've brought into the world. But for you, it did begin in a very dark place, right? I was just wondering if you'll be willing to go back there, maybe to a time when you were falling in love, with someone that turned out to be not what you thought that they were going to be.
Yes. And I have a saying, love is blind, and it certainly was blind in this scenario. So I had the fairy tale story. I met a very good looking guy while I moved back from Melbourne to Sydney. And I was really excited that I came back and had a housewarming. We went out clubbing, and then I had my knight in shining armor come and save me, so to speak, and pick me up and save me from all the craziness in King's Cross in Sydney. And my best friend and his mate, who ended up being my husband in the future. And I was like, wow. I was like, who's this guy? He's hot. And from there, a friendship formed and then a partnership. But things started to change very quickly and very dramatic.
How old were you?
I would have been about, oh gosh, now I've got to think of the age. I would have been in my early 20s. I would have been about, early 20s. I really wanted to build a family, have the house, have the car, have the, all the things that we're conditioned to have in life. And I was like, yep, this is going to be the man that I'm going to be marrying. Like, I knew it. I just had this, I just knew that I will be marrying this person, having a child, getting the house and everything else that comes with the package. However, it didn't end up that happily ever after. So things started to change after the love bombing, and you could say he was quite a gentleman. Car door would be opened for me, front doors, all of that sort of jazz. Very, very gentlemanlike. And then it wasn't until I purchased my property with my ex-father-in-law that things started to change. I
Right.
was told what I was supposed to wear. I was also told who I was allowed to speak to and not speak to. My Facebook account, which now I have a lot of people following me,
Hmm.
I had to disconnect to every single male that was friends with me because I wasn't allowed to have male friends. So my life started to become quite isolated, and I moved about an hour away from my family. And this is when, if you are experiencing domestic violence or have education around it, one of the first things and the red flags are control, isolation. But I
Hmm.
didn't know this because I wasn't educated in it. Then I thought it was like a form of love, like, oh, he must love me because he just wants me all for himself. And so I created these stories and justified the actions that he was doing in my life. I was justifying that and going, yeah, and friends would be like, you can do so much better. And I'm like, no, he really loves me. He really loves me if he's being that overprotective. And I would get like anywhere between 20 to 30 messages a day, phone calls, just to see my whereabouts, even though I worked in early childhood education for most of that period when I was with him.
Hmm.
I couldn't leave the premises. So this was another crazy story. So in early childhood education, you are part of ratios, so you're not allowed to leave the premises of an early childhood education care service. So I was there 8, maybe 10, 12 hours a day. If I left the premises, I'd get a fine because I'd be in breach of the child to adult ratios. So I was living like a jail-like life. So I was getting picked
Hmm.
up by my husband. I was going to work, couldn't leave there. So I felt like I was in jail
Hmm.
cell, not able to live life fully and wholly. Um,
So
then
you would get a fine if you left work, without permission. What would be the outcome if you kind of went AWOL outside of work?
outside of work,
Just
if I went outside of work with my ex-husband, I would be called all sorts of names if I went out. For instance, like I'd have a night out and I'd receive messages being called, I hope I can, am I allowed to use slang
go
words and
ahead.
swear?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I'd be called names like slut, how dare you go out, why don't you just pick up someone else and not come home? And I'm like, no, I do love you. So there was that emotional manipulation going on as
Mm.
well. And it's really hard when you get into these situations and these relationships. You don't know how to get out because you've gone too deep into the relationship. Plus having an investment property, a property with my ex-father-in-law, I just did not know how to get out, and I
Mm.
thought it was normal.
Yeah.
And I was also battling addiction with my ex husband as well. So he was dealing with his demons and his trauma. I
Mm.
also had, and I'm not an angel. I know that through my healing journey, I had a lot of trauma as a child. I was bullied as a child.
Mm.
So when you are told on a day-to-day practice of hearing people embed these negative affirmations that you're fat, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you start
Mm.
to grow up and think that you're fat, you're ugly, you're this and that. And I was working out at the gym and getting skinny and working on myself to try and feel better. I was still letting disempowering words have power over me.
Mm.
And if anyone was to go inside my mind and understand what the internal noise was, if I was to look at what I was saying to myself, it was probably worse than the domestic violence relationship I had.
Yeah, right.
So I had to unlearn all of this stuff that I had created in my own reality because my unconscious mind was quite horrible, and that was reflective of my external world as well.
Mm.
So the pinnacle point, like we used to there was furniture thrown, there was smashing of cups, and my daughter was used as a scapegoat for some of the fights that we had, to the point that he would threaten when I would be off to work as an operations manager, monitoring 14 childcare centres with a
Mm.
lot of compliance and complex problems popping up every single day. No day was the same, but it was quite stressful because we were in a company where it grew exponentially in 6 months. Went from 50 childcare centres in New South Wales to 150 childcare centres in 6 months. And
Wow.
so there were fires being put out everywhere. So the pressure at work and the stress at work and then the stress at home just kept compounding all the negativity that was coming on board in my life.
Yeah.
And when you're being threatened that your daughter is going to be left at home by herself while you're trying to serve a community of early childhood educators and put on this front and be happy all the time, hey, let's just be happy.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard. And it got to a stage where he started to steal off his own family. He started to steal off of me. So on the 3rd birthday of my daughter, all my jewelry, everything that I owned from when I was born to that period of time was taken. He tried to
This is
cover it up.
to fuel the addiction.
Fuel the addiction. Every week as well, like every fortnight, I would pay the mortgage and then my account would be annihilated with whatever he was getting his hands on, whether that be petrol for the car, his cigarette addiction, and then on top of it, his drugs, and then dealing the drugs as well. So I was living this nightmare and I'm like going, oh my gosh, this is what you see in the movie scene. Like how I didn't feel like, I always say to people, I didn't feel like I was in my body. I was having a bit of an out of body experience and I was starting to disassociate my mind, body and soul from the whole situation. Felt like I was in a movie scene. It didn't feel real.
Yeah.
Even on my wedding day, my dad, I'll never forget the time we got to the church and my dad said, you don't have to do this.
Yeah,
We can
right.
get in the car and go. Now, if your father is saying that on your wedding day, listen to your father. They usually have that intuition and that knowledge. But I went through with it. And he ended up having fights with the security guards at the Botanic Gardens. We had fights because there was stuff not going right. I was also sick. And what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life ended up becoming the biggest nightmare. I do make joke of it now and say, if you watch Fat Pizza, and if anyone knows Rebel Wilson and Fat Pizza and One Boy, you've never watched it?
No.
Oh, you'll have to watch their wedding. That was my wedding. So it was a Lebanese/Aussie wedding.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. So you can only imagine when the two cultures get together and the stuff that goes on. Yeah,
right.
If I compare it to anything, it's like that show.
I'll have to do some research and maybe put some links on the blog page for people to go and do their own little bit of research.
Shout out to Rebel Wilson for reenacting my life without even knowing who I am and what I went through.
I'm sure it's hilarious when you see it from that angle, but maybe not so funny from
No, not
first
at
person.
all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Can I just come back to one thing that you said, just because I'm really curious about it? Like, if there was someone who was listening and thinking, the guy that I'm with, he's a good guy, he's not a drug dealer, he's, but some of those other things that you said are ringing true. He wants to know where I am every second of the day. He expects me to call him. If I don't pick up the phone, he
the abuse starts to happen. Yeah, the reactions start to happen.
Emotional manipulation. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Where the extremes that you've just sort of described aren't there, but some of this other stuff is.
And I think it comes down to effective communication. Over my journey, it's about communicating effectively with each party and not reacting and responding. And that's one thing that I have been learning since about 2018, when I got into my personal development journey and coaching and looking at the power of language. You can have confronting conversations, but you don't have to yell and manipulate and do all sorts of stuff. There is a way to respond. And it's about identifying your emotions, because everybody's emotions are valid. And it's saying, hey, I actually feel frustrated because of X, Y, Z. And it's triggered off memories of this. And I know through some of my relationships at the moment and friendships, they've gone on similar paths, which means it's been really great to communicate effectively with people who understand trauma responses and understand people getting triggered. I know I had a conversation just today. I got told, hey, when you come to this place, make sure that you wear this. And it brought up all these triggers from when my ex-husband called me a slut, when he said you're not allowed to wear that, and I had to cover up. And I just expressed what had happened, and they go, I'm so sorry. I go, well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
However, this is what it's brought up for me. And I think that's really important when you come, because relationships are going to bring the bad, the ugly, the best, the beautiful, all of that jazz. And it comes down to, how can you guys come together and communicate your feelings effectively without reacting and responding, and then effectively listening to a person? Because you can listen, but how are you effectively listening to it to understand where the other person is coming from?
Yeah, that's good. And it is hard not to react when you're being triggered, obviously. But I think a key that you've mentioned there is owning it for yourself, like not to blame the other person and say, hey, you're making this
Yeah,
feeling
you're
come
making
up
me
in
feel
me,
like this.
but owning your feeling and then unpacking that and communicating that. I think that's really smart.
Exactly right. And I got a bit of a slap in the face in 2020 when I did a landmark forum. And the lady basically said to us, the coach in the room said, there is no one to blame with the way that you feel. You are responsible for the way you feel and how you emotionally react. And it was like a slap across the face. And you choose and decide whether you want to be happy or whether you want to be sad. It's not your parents' fault. It's not this so-and-so's fault. You take responsibility for how you react and respond. And it was like a bit of a penny dropped moment where I went, oh crap, my parents, for instance, only knew what they knew based on what they had learnt through their parents and, parents and all of that sort of stuff. And it's about, okay, well, how can I break this cycle? How can I learn different ways of being? How can I communicate effectively? Why did I respond that way? Why did I get triggered off that way? And when you start to have that self-awareness for yourself, you start to build a better EQ, emotional intelligence for yourself, and start to manage the way that you emotionally react to things. Because we are emotional beings, and it's okay. I always say to everybody, it's not all happy, happy, la la, and optimism and gratitude. It's okay to feel all of those feelings. And one thing that I teach a lot of my clients and people in my networks is that it takes 90 seconds to release an emotion. So let yourself feel the emotion and let it out, rather than storing it, suppressing it, and putting on the fake mask and going, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Let yourself process the emotion. When I started to learn how to process emotions, how long it actually took, it was like a penny dropped. And I've helped people who have been grieving for 20 years or more, or people who have gone through trauma and been holding on to stuff. And the emotional release and charge that happens, people are then set free from whatever's holding them back.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool. You mentioned your personal development journey. Did that start, whilst you were still in the dark space, or did things just, the wheels completely fall off, and then you just thought, how am I going to get myself out of this? How did it happen?
Okay, so I had been dabbling. I didn't realize that I was in the personal development space, but since about age 19, I read the first book, which was Who Moved My Cheese, which is a metaphor book. So I read that when I was 19. I'm so grateful that I read that, because I see that everywhere. And I read many self-help books. So I already had, I loved all of that sort of self-help, improve yourself, because of what had happened in my childhood. So I was on that path, but I didn't know it was an actual thing called personal development and self-help. And then on top of that, it wasn't until I had my burnout and had my mental breakdown in 2015, and I read the book, The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin.
Right.
And that's where I started my happiness journey. I just wanted to be happy. I just wanted to have peace and I wanted more clarity in my life because there was every day it was just negativity, negativity, negativity. And I'm like, I'm watching people and their lives, and I can see that some people have peace, they've got joy, they've got freedom, they've got happiness. I want that. So I went on a hunt and a search on all the great things out there that would help me with building up how I could be my better self.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's cool. 2015, same year that kind of the wheels fell off for me in a very different way, but in the world of education, and and I went looking for something different and found life coaching, and I thought, wow, this is different, and started to study. So a lot of parallels there. That's really cool.
Oh, that's a bit uncanny.
Yeah. Tell us about the walk and talk. How did that start? Well, can you tell us what it is first, and then tell us how it started?
Sure thing. So Women's Walk and Talk Hervey Bay, the conception idea came to fruition at a Chamber of Commerce event, and it was talking about mental health, well-being, and well-being incentives. There is an awesome non-for-profit organisation called Fraser Coast Mates. Shout out to Darren Bosley if he ever listens to this. And he was the source of inspiration, saying, we've got a men's walk and talk. We need a women's walk and talk. Now, I tried to implement something very similar back in 2019 when I started doing gratitude, when I started to do life coaching. So that's when I got into the world of life coaching myself. And I thought, well, if I call it Women's Walk and Talk, it's pretty plain and simple. It's really effective, and the marketing message will get out there. All it is 2 walks a week, Monday afternoon at 5:15 p.m. We kick off at All Abilities Park on the Esplanade in Hervey Bay, and we walk 30 minutes out and 30 minutes back. Whatever ability you are at, whatever age, we encourage all women to come join. And we also have a walk on Thursday mornings from 5:30 a.m. and then go for coffee afterwards. So a lot of the women love to come to the morning session because they get the coffee after. That's the only reason they'll get out of bed, is for the coffee after the walk. And the sunrise, I have to say, the sunrises here are absolutely magical. But when we first did our first event, so it took about a month to get all the marketing materials, the logo, the branding. And because I'd been practicing this through my coaching stuff, it was pretty simple and easy for me to get this kick started. So the first event had over 600 people interested, and 59 women showed up on the Esplanade. And I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like we're taking over the Esplanade. They're probably going to think it's some sort of rally or some sort of like, hey, protest. But it was phenomenal. And those numbers have kept right up. Winter's been a lot quieter, but we're getting back up to our 20, 30, 40 people coming twice a week. Now we've included monthly hikes. We now do Tuesday chit chat. So the fast walkers who don't get to talk to the slow walkers can get to chat with each other for like a morning tea together. And then there's also Sunday sessions as well. What's been absolutely beautiful with this is there's been many transformations and friendships growing. I've had women who have been isolated for over 20 years make friends and form friendships. I've had people come from when I moved up here coming in because they've been inspired and want new friends and new communities to join and feel a sense of belonging. And I've even had people, hundreds of women who have just moved up here because Hervey Bay is a bit of a hotspot at the moment. We've got people down in Mexico, so Melbourne and Sydney, coming over the south border, going to move up here. And they just want to make new friends. And some of the touching stories, I have one lady who I go and visit and we have coffees together. She moved up here and unfortunately her husband passed within a month of moving here. So she's been experiencing loneliness, and loneliness is really, really hard for people who are older age because they're scared to go out and make friends. And it was, funnily enough, I had a market store and we got chatting. She brought some of my merchandise through the gratitude method. And then I said, come to my women's walk and talk. As from there, I've seen her make a few friendships. She's come along to my walks and I've just started that connection for her and a new life for her because she's had to get used to being by herself. She's also still unpacking her house. And she's also going through the grief process, which can be really daunting when you're in a new area, a new environment. It's a massive, massive shift for someone. So this has just brought connection, community, and friendships all around.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, just so many success stories, like many, and it's so simple, but so many profound stories coming out of that. That's so good to hear.
Even fitness levels, like we had one lady, she could only do 1 kilometer and now she can do 5Ks easy like that.
Yeah, right.
So fitness levels. And another lady she had some disease. She doesn't have that anymore because she's improved her health.
Wow.
So, and I've been walking all of my life, so there is a backstory to this. So I've been walking and jogging my whole entire life. I had a fear of driving and I didn't get my license till I was about 30.
Okay.
So walking has been integrated into my life and I absolutely love it because it's the one thing that doesn't cost you anything at all. It's free, it's easy, and it's great for your health.
Yeah, and that's a great example too of turning a negative into a positive too. You know,
That's
we talk
right.
a lot about that on Gifts from the Edge podcast. You know, how does a negative in your life become a positive? That's a great illustration of that. So that's cool. I just wanted to ask you about, so we've talked about the personal development journey. You must have gone right into the world of gratitude, you know, to earn the title Dr. Gratitude somewhere along the line. It must have, you know, been something that you really, really looked at. And you mentioned before, you know, it's not this, everything's going great. You know, it's not this fake facade that we put over, because I think sometimes who are not that familiar with personal development sometimes think of gratitude like that sometimes. Can you unpack gratitude just a little bit and tell us a little bit about you know, your journey in that?
In my times of darkness and when I have lost everything, finding the small things in life that are really, really simple have helped me to get through my darkest days. And I've lost 2015 when I lost everything. So I lost my car, I lost the house, lost my husband, went down from 6 figures to $20,000 a year. So I want people out there to imagine that the only thing that you can really live for and keep yourself going is, well, what can I actually be grateful for? What I actually have, not with what I don't have. Because I could have completely I sort of lost the plot, but I also learnt about appreciating on the things that I actually had around me. So I was grateful that my parents allowed me to move in with them. I was grateful that I still had a bed that I could sleep on, even though we were playing musical beds in our household. I was living out of a suitcase for 7 months before I moved up to Hervey Bay. And then in 2020, again, I left a corporate job to go full-time into my coaching business, and I had $50 in my bank account for 6 weeks. That really, really grounds you on what you have to be grateful for around you. I was grateful for that. I called it a pre-COVID before COVID. So that happened I left my job 31st of December 2019. And so 1st of January 2020, I went full-time into my business, and for 6 weeks I had crickets, no income coming through. Wow. And that forced me to walk on the beach every single day and look at the waves, look at the beach, look at the sunset, look at the sunrises. Then COVID hit, and that was I started to work as a facilitator for small businesses and entrepreneurs and startups and help them. But because of COVID, I couldn't do those face-to-face workshops. And I lived with people over the age of 70. So it was like another setback. 3 months later, another setback. I was like, my gosh, I'm like, I am getting really tested here at the moment. Now I could have lost the plot, but I kept moving forward. I think at the stage during COVID, I was walking about 100 Ks a week.
Wow.
Just walking and learning about life coaching, to be honest. So I was with the International Coaching Institute. I was with them for 3 years. And in 2020, I actually became International Life Coach of the Year. So I went from having nothing to then having a massive, massive year and hitting 6 figures. So I bounced back pretty quickly. And I thank that because of gratitude, because I could have gone straight into addiction and, you know, just done self-destructive behaviors, but I knew that there was more to life and I knew that there was more purpose for me. And then the Coaching Institute got me to do a workshop on gratitude. I created my first gratitude journal on the 25th of December in 2018. And that's when that started to ramp up. I know I jumped from 2020 back to 2018, but the first gratitude journal was made on the 25th of December in 2018. If anyone knows that, that's Jesus's birthday. So if you're a believer with God, universe, creator, whatever, there have been specific milestones with my spirituality and this gratitude stuff. Even more so to this day, in March on Easter long weekend, on Easter Saturday, my first market stall. And I'm like, I know I've been having the whisper on, just keep going with this gratitude stuff. It's going to work for you. That little voice, that little whisper saying, just keep going with it. I didn't think anything of it, but it keeps going to fruition. With the gratitude journal, that's evolved 4 times. It's hit over 12 countries. When I first made my first ever journal, there's a funny story. It cost me $59.95 to make at Officeworks, and I was selling them for $49.95. So I was already losing money, and I'm going, how does Kmart sell them for $3? Like, I don't understand. So I've also gone on a massive journal and book writing journey as well. I've published multiple books and journals, and I've learnt the art of making journals, spoken with wholesalers. I've even made spiral bound journals, and I've just played with the whole concept of journals and books and love the process of it and what it does for people. When I started to receive messages from people saying, listen, I was in a really dark spot, and I picked up your journal and I started to write what I was grateful for. I didn't want to end my life anymore. And that's when I knew that I was onto something really, really much more bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm on this massive mission, because it does save lives. It does change your mindset. And you can't have a positive and negative mindset at the same time. What's also been a blessing is I'm grateful that what I went through with my ex-husband, it's a gift, because now I can teach it to other people, and I wouldn't be in the spaces that I'm in if those things didn't happen for me. I used to say it happened to me, but nothing, the world doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So you have to find the blessings on why things are happening for you, because there are lessons that are learnt through it.
And there you have it. Amazing stuff. I'm just going to jump in there because we've got so much more to share from Alicia's journey with you. But we've covered her background. We've covered the foundation, where her story has come from, through addiction, through dysfunctional relationship, domestic violence, and into a powerful new re-understanding of herself and the world. And that's where her gifts have come from. That's how she has developed the character and understandings to be able to share this gift of gratitude with the world. So if you're loving this, go right ahead and click onto the next episode, where we dive into some of Alicia's books and all her other breakthrough resources as well. We're going to share how you can get some of those books and how you can work with Alicia more directly. So make sure you come back for that. But for now, that's all we have time for. So I will see you again very soon on Gifts from the Edge. I'm Andrew Lord. Bye for now.